can see that. Is that the camera there? That's
Yes.
up
Yep.
there. Okay.
Yep. And
So if
then
I want
my
to look
camera's
into the
there.
camera, I look that way.
Correct.
Okay.
I never look at the camera though.
No, I'm gonna look at you.
Yeah, no. So have you done podcasts before?
Yeah. Usually every year we do a bunch in the spring leading up to the Comic-Con here in Lansing,
Okay.
just as promotional tools.
Okay.
So we don't have our own. I'd love to have my own. I've always got ideas for doing podcasts. Like we should do a Comic-Con podcast and talk about
Yeah.
running the convention. But it's a huge time commitment to just prep every week and produce and do all of that stuff and
Yeah.
bring guests on. So we've just never gotten around to it.
Have you ever thought about just doing like a live stream type of thing, maybe once a week? Because then it'd be almost less work.
Yeah.
Because you could just stream it to like social media and then it's out there.
Yeah. Then you got to be careful though, because we're a family-friendly show. I want our content to be family. Oh, you can't, if you record ahead of time in post, you can bleep out swear words or,
Right. Right.
edit your content to fit what makes sense to do. But, we'll get around to it someday.
Yeah. Now we are recording, so we probably should introduce who you are.
Yeah, let's introduce.
So you're Tim.
Yeah.
You are head of you're in charge of putting together the Capital City Comic-Con.
Right. Yep. I'm one of the co-owners, along with Brian Harris. And yeah, we put on a 3-day Comic-Con here in Lansing every summer.
How long have you guys been doing that?
So it started on my shirt. It says established 2015.
Oh, look at that
down there. So the show was founded in 2015. I was not involved the first few years. Brian wasn't involved the first year or two either. He came on later. So it's always been a group of owners. So Brian came in after the first couple years, and then a year or two later, I came on board and took an ownership spot. So it's been going on since 2015. We took 2 years off for COVID. We had planned to run a show in 2020, of course, and then, it couldn't run anything large like that. And then 2021, same thing happened. We're going to plan on running the show, bringing it back, and the venue we had went out of business.
Whoa.
So we had to pause everything, find a new venue, which is great because now we're at the Lansing Center, which is a great venue to be in.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge for us, and we're not even using all the space yet. So,
wow.
We've expanded a little bit this year, but we've got a little bit more room to grow in there still.
How many vendors do you guys typically have there?
Usually around, so that's a multi-part answer.
Okay.
Usually there's around 100 or so vendors. A lot of them will get between 2 and 4 booth spaces. So some of them want more space, but that's vendors. And then separately we have artists. So we have an artist alley, and this year I think we'll have about 70 artists in our artist alley.
Whoa.
And then we also have usually around 30 or so special guests, and that includes celebrities, actors, voice actors, people involved in the industry somehow, a lot of comic book writers and artists, things like that.
How do you guys find those people?
Multiple ways. We go to a lot of other conventions. Okay. So we'll talk to people at other shows, talk to artists, talk to writers, talk to celebrities, actors, all of that stuff at other shows. Also, we sometimes have people contact us. And then also all of the celebrity actors and voice actors typically work through agents or agencies. So we have contacts with probably, I'm going to say, around 30 different agents or agencies around the country that represent anywhere from dozens to hundreds of people that they manage.
What made you want to get on board with this?
I've been a comic collector since I was a kid.
Okay.
So I've gone to comic shows for decades. Buy comics, collect comics, I sell comics. It's a thing I've always done since I was a kid. So when the opportunity came up, and I've known Brian since college, have been good friends for a long time. So when he said, "Hey, I'm getting involved in this Comic-Con thing here. You know a lot about comics. Why don't you come, on board and help out?" I said, "Sure, why not?" So it was kind of sort of happenstance. I didn't set out to do it, but I'm glad I'm doing it now. It's a really fun a job because we get to meet so many people, go so many places, do so many things. We're involved in the community.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just overall, it's a lot of work. There are, just like any job, there are things you don't like about it, but overall, it's very rewarding.
How long does it take to prep something like that?
So
To
we
prepare?
so we will start. So our show is July 12th through the 14th this summer. We will probably start in April or May, reaching out to people that we want to have as guests for the following year for 2025.
Wow.
So I'm going to say around 15 months out is when we
Whoa.
start. Yeah. So right now we're getting lots of finalization details done for the summer show. the By the time we get to about May and June, it's just promotions for our July event.
Wow.
So while we're doing promotions leading up to that event, we'll start reaching out to people for the following year. And then even at the convention itself, I'll go around and talk to dealers and say, hey, do you want your spot again next year? A lot of them will say yes. And so we'll
Sign a
start
contract.
right off with a list of, here's people who want
That's
who want
awesome.
to come back next year and want a spot again. So
And then you progressively see it grow every single year.
yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we've had attendance increases every year, I think, except one, since the beginning. So yeah, last year we had 4,700 attendees.
Pass me that whiskey.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. We're drinking whiskey, by the way. We've got peanut butter whiskey, which is good. And we've got American honey.
American
I see
honey.
over there.
That
Yeah.
American
So
honey is so good.
I've got the peanut butter whiskey. This is a drinking podcast.
It is. No, we can do whatever we want on this podcast.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about podcasts is you can literally do whatever you want.
Yeah. So yeah, I think, did I answer that question?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. It's continually growing.
Yeah. So last year we had 4,700 tickets sold through the box office. The year prior it was 4,200.
Wow.
And then pre-COVID we were around 2,000.
Wow.
So yeah, we've grown a lot. I expect to grow again. We should be over 5,000 attendees this year without a problem.
That's incredible.
So yeah, the Lansing Center will hold 10,000, 12,000, something like that. So we've got room to grow still, and
Wow.
I think in a few years we'll get up to that point. So
That's incredible.
That's the goal.
That's incredible. Yeah, I think the capital city for sure needs something like that, right? We we always have these giant events. Like there's the Comic Cons in Detroit and do they have them in Grand Rapids?
Yep.
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah.
I've actually never gone, but I always see like pictures and
You
everything,
should,
videos. And yeah, I would love to go at some point, but yeah, they're huge. So it'd be nice to have something like that here in Lansing, and it's cool that you're doing it.
Yeah. Well, and Lansing's a great spot because it's the center of Southern Michigan. So,
Yeah.
When you have the Comic-Con in Detroit, you may not get people from the west side of the state because
Right.
they go, oh, well, it's a 2.5 hour, 3 hour drive. I don't want to go over there for that. And vice versa. Grand Rapids might not pull as many people from Detroit, but we're right in the middle. So
Yeah.
we're, if you live in the Detroit metro area, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours most to get to us.
Yep.
Flint is an hour, Saginaw's an hour and a half, Midland's an hour 45, Mount Pleasant's only an hour, Jackson, Kalamazoo. We're right smack in the middle of every city in Michigan. So we get a lot of people coming in from all over.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Yeah. And then we draw people from other states as well. So typically, Chicago, Indianapolis, Columbus, Toledo, all of those cities, people come from all those areas to our show too.
Now you mentioned that you have a lot of local artists. Do you have, or not local, but you have a lot of artists. Are they local or are they just artists in general?
Both.
Both.
Yep, both. So we have a lot of local comic artists that live in the Michigan or Midwest area that will drive in to do our show. We also sometimes fly people in. So like this year we have John Beatty. I don't remember exactly where he lives, but it's down south somewhere. I want to say maybe Florida or Georgia.
Okay.
So we fly him in, and he was an artist on Secret Wars in the 80s at Marvel, which is where the black Spider-Man costume comes from. He did a ton of stuff in the 80s, 90s, 2000s for Marvel. So he's drawn pretty much every Marvel character ever.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So we've got Dan Mishkin is actually a local Michigan guy. He used to live in East Lansing. Now, he doesn't now, but he lives nearby. And he wrote for DC Comics through the 80s and 90s.
Wow.
And now he does his own independent stuff. So back then he was writing Justice League, Blue Devil, He wrote all the Dungeons and Dragons comics
Wow.
back
That's
then.
crazy.
Yeah, so
How hard is it to break through in that, I guess that career field?
it used to be a lot harder.
Really?
Yeah, so back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, when tons of people wanted to get into comics, you'd have to move to New York and go and work at Marvel or DC in the mailroom
And
and
work your way
work your
up.
way up and practice drawing every day and submit portfolios and try to get like an 8-page story,
Wow.
and convince an editor to put you on some
Right,
work, right?
right.
Nowadays, it's super easy to self-publish your own stuff. So I mentioned our artist alley. We've got about 70 tables this year. Roughly 50 of them or so will have self-produced their own comic books,
Mm,
and they'll have them for sale. They write their own stuff, they draw their own stuff, they color it, they ink it, they letter it, or maybe they work in conjunction with a team, but they're producing their own books and they're getting them printed themselves without going through a major publisher,
so
because nowadays you can just do that. Everything is digital.
right,
So,
right.
30, 40 years ago, you had to actually draw everything out on paper in pencil and then ink and
Yeah.
then color it. And then they'd scan it and send it to a printer to print 100,000 copies or 500,000 copies or whatever for
Right,
distribution.
right.
But nowadays, you can do everything digitally on a tablet and send
Oh,
the file to a printer here in Michigan and say, print me off 100 copies of this book.
you probably don't even need to print
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, a lot of
Sell it
people
digitally.
sell digital copies, PDFs,
Wow.
or they put them online on their website for free.
Is it
There's all sorts of
is it easier to get discovered by, like, a major company like DC or Marvel by putting your own stuff out like that?
yeah, that's typically, for a lot of people, that's how it works. You go and you do your own stuff, and then at some point somebody notices you at a convention and goes, "Hey, let me hire you for whatever book,
Right.
so, and I think everybody's story is different. I'm not an artist, I'm not a comic creator, so I can't speak from personal experience. This is just anecdotal, if
Right, right.
from talking to other people that have done this. But I think it's different for everybody. Some people only want to self-publish. They don't want to work for Marvel or DC. They want to make
Right.
their own thing, because then your creation, you get to do what you want with it. If you go and work for Marvel and draw or write Spider-Man, you have to follow their rules. So
Right.
they give you a bit, just like any TV show has a Bible, they're going to give you a Bible for Spider-Man. Here's what you can and can't do.
Mm,
You got to follow
yeah.
those rules. And your editor is going to say, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. And you got to do that because you're getting paid to
Yeah,
maintain their character, not your own.
if you're an artist, that's pretty stifling.
It can be, it's not necessarily. Sometimes, the structure makes it easier to do the work because it's not open-ended.
That's true.
Also, some people just have that dream of, I want to write and draw Spider-Man. I want to write and draw Batman. You do it for a year or two, and then you can say, okay, well, I've done it. I'm gonna move on now.
Right, right.
So, everybody's got different things they want out of that industry, that career.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's different for everybody. I know people who have been self-publishing books for 20 plus years. They have no interest in going to work for Marvel or DC. I know other people who that's all they want to do.
What is your favorite aspect of the, Comic-Con? Like, what thing excites you the most out of all the different events and people there, like, different kinds of vendors?
Yep. So the thing that I enjoy the most, I'm gonna say, is people. And that's a very broad, it's a very broad answer. What I enjoy about the people is, one, meeting new people, getting to know just all sorts of vendors, artists, creators, celebrities, whatever it is. Plus, our staff, our volunteers, everybody that works to put this on. Um, the better part of that is getting to see when people make connections because of our event. So when a writer and an artist meet each other and go, hey, we should collaborate, and then a year later they've made a book.
That's awesome.
If they didn't meet at our convention, that may not have happened.
Right,
you know
right.
so things like that, that's I think the best part of events like this is networking, and a lot of people simply use it for that, especially the artist community.
Yeah.
When you go to a con, you're meeting everybody else that's around you, and you're swapping books or sharing contact info and talking about, oh, I'm working on this. What are you working on? Let's do
Right.
something together. Let's collaborate. So there's a lot of that always going on, and that I think is one of the best things to see that kind of stuff happen.
Absolutely.
At our show, we bring in a lot of um, local nonprofit groups in the area, not necessarily related to comics or art or whatever. Some of them might be, but we give space every year to a number of groups that
Like
are.
who?
So last year we had Small Talk Advocacy Center,
Okay.
which is it's mental health resources for young children that have gone through some sort of PTSD,
Mm.
and they need counseling and things like that. So we had them come. We had a Suicide Prevention Network. We have them every year. Again, it's a mental health organization. Uh, we have Causabilities, which is a local group here. It started here in Lansing, and it's for uh, people with neurodiversity issues who want to go out in public and do cosplay, so
Oh,
dressing
cool.
up in costume and things like that, but they might be nervous or concerned or worried or have some sort of neurodivergent aspect that prevents them typically from going out and doing things or going to crowded places or going to noisy places. So
Mm.
this is a group that tries to make it a safe space and bring those people together for support and just to go out and do events together. So it's things like that. So we've got a bunch of different groups that we give space to. That the library. We'll have the library out, or we have. Oh, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. Last year we had a really cool group, and I don't remember their name. They make video game accessories for people with physical disabilities
Hmm.
where you can't
Wow.
use a regular controller,
Yeah.
but you might be able to use a different style of control. So they make different styles of controllers
Okay.
for people with physical disabilities who want to play video games.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, so
Well,
we just wanna spotlight those kinds of groups in the area, give them a platform to advertise themselves to the community and, get them out there.
I think that's important. Just recently I went and toured Ellie's place here in Lansing,
Mhm.
and I didn't really know much about Ellie's place until I had this guy Travis on, and he's on the board and he was telling me about it, and I'm like, man, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And then I went and toured it, and I'm like, this place is sweet. Like the amount of resources and things that they do for the people that come in there.
Mhm.
For the people who don't know, Ellie's place is a place where children who experience a death of like a parent or a
Yeah.
sibling or somebody can go and get the therapy,
Yep.
and they just work through their issues through like group play and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I thought it was pretty remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very similar to the Small Talk, Children's Advocacy
Yeah,
Center. Yeah, PTSD and trauma for, dealing with that as a child, it's a very different thing than as an adult.
right.
Because those kids, if you're young, you don't know how to express the things you're feeling, if you're 5, 6, 7, 8 years
What
old.
was the reason for you guys wanting to pull in these groups other than wanting to give them a platform? Is there something that you guys experience where people that tend to gravitate towards like comic books or just kind of are they
No, actually, it's just part of our mission statement that we decided early on
just to try to make a difference?
was to be a part of make community a big part of our culture, the culture of our event, where it's not just us putting on a thing for people to come and buy comics or toys at, which there's plenty of. You can come and shop. People come and spend money buying stuff, but we wanted it to be more of an experience, and we wanted it to be we want to have we want to be immersed in the community, especially local community Lansing,
Hmm.
and uh, so just reaching out to groups like that, um, it made sense to do.
Right, right. Yeah, especially now with the way mental health is, it's such a, I mean, it's such a big thing.
Yeah,
everybody's suffering from something.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the statistics were for anxiety and depression. We talked about it the other day on the podcast. But I think it was, oh man, I wish I could remember the statistic. It was like, it was insane. It was like a large amount of people
Yeah.
suffer from some sort of mental disorder, and it could be, you know, stress
Yeah.
or anxiety and depression or
Yeah.
whatever else.
Mhm.
And so having those kind of services available for
Yeah.
people is important.
And that's relatively a new thing too when you think about it. Like our parents' generation, when they were growing up and becoming young adults and having kids, mental health wasn't a thing for
No.
them. It was all just suck it up and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, you feel bad all the time? Well, have a beer and watch TV and forget about it. um and it's not until I think it's been mostly a much more recent phenomenon that we're learning that, hey, there are real significant uh, traumas and mental issues that many people deal with, and it's good to deal with them. We're all better off, both
Yeah.
individually and at the societal level, if everybody deals with that stuff.
Absolutely.
um,
And especially being in Michigan, one of the biggest things is seasonal depression. At least for me,
yeah.
it's bad. I get seasonal depression bad, and I work out and run, and even that, like, it helps mitigate it,
Yeah.
but it still gets bad. And then one thing I just recently started doing was cold plunging, and that
Okay.
significantly has helped my seasonal depression. Believe it or not.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have no interest in doing that. Sounds horrible.
It's not fun. It's something I fear every single day. You
Yeah.
fear it because your body goes into a flight or fight mode.
Right.
So, like, leading up to getting in the cold plunge, you're like, "Man, do I wanna do this? Do I wanna do this?" Then you just do it, and then you feel great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I went in the lake once, in the late fall accidentally.
Accidentally fell through the
Yeah.
ice.
Yeah, I was a teen and not the ice. I was a teenager and I had a job, pulling docks out of the lake
Oh,
in the
okay.
fall for people. So we were pulling a dock out and my foot just slipped and I was wearing waders.
Oh, yeah.
So
So it
when
filled right up.
and yeah, so the waders go up to your chest, but we're in 5 feet of water, and I'm standing on the dock and my foot slipped and the dock piece, tipped
Oh, no.
because that was the one we were trying to take apart. And I went right in and the waders filled right up. And the other guys had to jump in and grab me, because
Right.
that weight of that water inside those
It'll
waders.
pull you down.
Yeah, yeah. So I was, I don't think I was really in any danger or anything because it was, I could stand there.
Right, right.
It wasn't over my head or anything. But yeah, when you do that in October in northern Michigan, it's cold.
Absolutely. Yeah, but that was, I mean, for me though, that's like one of the biggest things is learning how to find ways to mitigate the depression or mitigate the whatever it is, the anxiety.
Yeah,
Um, and having resources like that available for people who don't know how or
yeah,
maybe need to find a way, maybe a
yeah,
new way.
yeah.
Maybe that won't work for me forever.
Right.
But having that available, I think is important.
Yeah,
So that's cool
yeah,
that you guys do that.
yeah. We're actually adding a room this year, which is it's a sensory room.
Hmm.
So it'll be a side room at the convention center that's on the second floor, and it'll be open for people who need a break from the noise and the lights and the, whatever, the people, the crowds. It'll
Right.
be just a quiet, safe space for people who need to step away and have a break from that stuff.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, so um, because sometimes people need that. There's plenty of anxiety order disorders where you don't want to be around crowds,
Right.
you don't want to be around noise, um, things like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
so we've got that sensory room for the first time this year that people can
That's
use.
cool.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys have any shows going on there or any performances or anything like that?
We do. So we do after hours on Friday and Saturday night. So our convention, for those of you who might be listening who don't know, the Comic Con vendor hall hours are Friday, Saturday, Sunday during the day. But Friday night and Saturday night, we do after hours events in spots around the downtown area
Oh,
near
cool.
the convention center. Yeah. So we have We have some VIP events that you have to buy an extra ticket for, and those are Friday night, we do a cigar and whiskey tasting
Oh, cool.
with our celebrity guests. So
Oh,
it's limited to only 40 people. But you get, with your VIP ticket for that, you get, we have dinner catered in by a downtown Lansing business restaurant. And then we do it at the smoke shop downtown. You get a cigar, you get alcohol with it, and you get to hang out for a couple hours with the celebrities who
that's sweet.
participate. Yeah. And then Saturday night, we have a VIP event, which is sort of similar. It's with the artists. And so we call it our drink and draw. So we do that at the brewery downtown. Again, you can buy a VIP ticket, but it's limited to 40 people. But you get dinner. We have dinner catered in. You get drinks, and you get to hang out with all the comic book artists and writers that come out for the evening.
Wow.
Yeah. And the way we do ours, and we crypted this idea. This isn't our original idea.
Right.
We stole it from Traverse City Comic Con. We do call it our drink and draw, and the artists all create a piece of art that's a unique, one of a kind, and then we auction them off on Sunday
Mm.
to fund our scholarship to
Oh,
MSU.
cool.
Yeah.
And what is the scholarship
So,
fund?
so Michigan State University has a comic art minor that you can get,
Okay.
and so we pick a student in the comic art minor every year to get a scholarship.
Wow. I
Yeah.
didn't know they had them.
Yeah. Yep, a lot of people don't. So,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
there's only a few around the country. There's not a ton of them, but
Really?
you have either the first largest or second largest comic book collection at a university in the country and or the world. Um, I know there's a really big one in Ohio at Columbus, and I don't know which one is bigger.
Okay.
I've heard both, and that might be, people in Ohio are like, yeah, ours is bigger, and people here are like, no, ours is bigger. So yeah, huge comic book collection at MSU. And they have the comic art minor, so we do a scholarship every year. So to go
Mm.
back to kind of our after hours things, you asked about performances. So we've got the VIP after hours, but we also do an official after party that's open to anybody with a Comic Con pass
Okay.
that you can come in. And last year we did the Lansing Shuffle, both nights, Friday and Saturday. I think we're going to be there again this year. And we brought in Wesley and the Crushers, they're a rock band from here in Michigan, and they dress up in costume and they do a lot of their lyrics are like science fiction
Okay.
stuff, Star Wars references. They play theme songs to things and
Wow, that's
stuff
cool.
like that. And then we've also brought in, trying to remember who else. DJ Mark Cooper, he's from the Detroit area. He does a bunch of nerd and geek based lyrics and music. Um, and we've had another band too, the Shakeups. Again, they dress up in costume. Um, when we had them 2 years ago. They were dressed as the Teen Titans.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
every year they pick a different group and they do a group costume. So one year they were the Scooby Doo gang,
That's
and
cool.
then they were the Teen Titans, and this year there'll be something different. So yeah, so we do have performances like that.
That's cool.
Um, we sometimes have stuff during the show hours. Um, we occasionally have small performance groups that want to do something, whether that's a radio play or um, music or something like that. We might have in our stage or our side panel rooms.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's a whole weekend full of festivities.
Yeah, and that was by design. When we came back from COVID, we said, okay, well, as a 3-day convention, how do we keep people here for 3 days? And our decision was we have to have stuff for people to do,
Right.
not just come in and shop and spend some money and then leave and go
Right.
home. A lot of conventions are like that. You go, you shop, you spend your money, you buy your stuff, and you leave. And we didn't want to be like that. We wanted to have lots of activities and things you can participate in. So when I talk about our panel rooms, we actually have a main stage in the vendor hall and then also 4 side rooms. And they all weekend long, all 4 rooms are panels and workshops and discussion groups and things like that you
Mm.
can go in, listen to, participate in, build something, create something.
Teaching these.
So we usually go through our vendors and have our vendors or our volunteers and staff and people like that run these events. This year is the first year we're opening up to the public. So
Oh,
right now you can actually go to our website, capcitycomiccon.com, and on the panel page, there's a form. You can just fill it out and you can say, hey, I want to do a presentation on my favorite anime show, One Piece. Here's, I've done this before at other shows. Here's what I talk about. I bring in, somebody else with me and we discuss this aspect and we open it up to, Q&A or, discussion, whatever you want to do, you just put it in there and then we see, okay, does that fit into our programming somewhere,
right,
into our
right.
schedule? So
That's cool.
yeah, so if you come to our show for the weekend, yes, you can shop and buy stuff because that's part of going to a Comic-Con,
Right.
but you can also go and do panels. You can hear about authors talking about, hey, here's how to build a world for your fantasy setting or your sci-fi setting. Here's how to
Wow.
get into self-publishing your book, whether that's a novel or a comic. You can listen to some of the costume groups talk about, here's how to get into cosplay and build full costumes. Here are the techniques of building, a piece of armor or
Right.
whatever. You can do that. We have visual effects artist Rob Miller comes every year. And he'll do a demonstration and he'll take somebody and like do an alien
Oh, cool.
headpiece on them because that's what he does.
That's sweet.
So there's all sorts of things that you can come and learn about. We've got a lot of panels always about role playing, how to play D&D, how to be a dungeon master for D&D, how to create characters, things like that.
Do you guys do anything with like LARPing or anything?
Sometimes
Would that fall under like cosplay?
it would fall under gaming typically,
Okay.
because that's a live action role playing.
Okay.
Uh, for those of you who don't know, LARP is LARP, live action role playing. So it's like D&D, but not at a table. It's like you
In a
usually do it.
park.
Usually do it in a park. Most everybody's in costume.
Yeah.
Yep. And then instead of dice, you do rock paper scissors.
Yep.
Um,
I went to a LARPing event one time. I got my ass beat. And I was like, not again. These nerds beat my ass. And I went and sat in the car. I didn't have any weapons though.
yeah,
Some dude let me borrow his sword. And then
yeah,
eventually, like, they were playing another game and he's like, I need my weapon back.
yeah. Foam swords, everybody.
Yeah,
Foam,
but
foam
it
swords.
was foam, but it was hard.
Yeah.
It hurt. um,
And not all LARPs are full contact like that. Some of them are, and some of them are not.
oh, okay.
So yeah. What's that movie?
Oh, is it role models or something?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, role models where they do that. They have like 2 or 3 big LARPing scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great movie.
I think it would be a lot of fun. Like I was a lot younger then, didn't know anything about it. But I think if I were to go now and do it, I think it'd be a lot of fun.
It is. And I've played Dungeons and Dragons since the 80s, mid 80s. So that's my game. But although I like other stuff too.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so we also have a big gaming room with lots of D&D. We do pretty much at any time you can walk in and join a how to play D&D table.
Oh wow.
So we have a whole team of uh, game runners, game masters who will sit and run introductory adventures where they give you a character to start. They show you how to play. You can play for 2 hours to get kind of a taste of what it's like if you've never done it before.
That's a game that can go on and on and on, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, role playing in general is just storytelling, right? So you can tell a story for however long you want. Um, I've played in games that have run for years. Um,
Wow.
yeah. So it's up to
Does a
you.
story of like do you remember it? How does that?
I do. I do.
I've never played D&D.
Okay. Okay. You should.
I
You should.
should.
Yeah. People who play are going to understand, what I'm talking about here. And for those of you who don't play or haven't played, you should try it at least once or twice, maybe 3 times even, because you won't always have. Sometimes you don't have a good experience the first time, and sometimes you have to just find a group of people who want to play the game or tell the story the same way you want to,
Mhm.
because there's different ways of doing it. But I developed a group of players at my house years ago, and we played every Tuesday for years,
Wow.
years and years. And then when COVID hit, we all kind of were like, okay, we're all going to pause because we're all staying at home now. And then we just sort of all split up and didn't come back together yet. But
Oh man.
but those are all people who I'm still good friends with.
So you could pick up right now from where you guys left off.
Probably, yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, because we all keep notes. I've got extensive
So
pages and pages of notes
can
on
you
things.
briefly give an overview of what, like, how to play it,
How to play it.
or like what the, I guess the, like, I guess a little bit about the game?
Yeah. So
I know a little bit, but not much.
yeah, so Dungeons and Dragons is a fantasy setting, first of all. So it's similar to Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or movies or books of that nature.
Okay.
The Dungeons and Dragons movie that came out this past year, that's kind of how a game would go. Like as a person who's played a lot, I can absolutely see movie just being a 2-hour session at
Wow.
home at a table
Wow.
because it's a group of adventurers, and so each person is playing their own character, right? And it's really just acting,
Hmm.
but it's also storytelling because every person gets to do what they want, not necessarily following a script. So it's very much like improv. If you've ever done improv or played yes and
Mm.
like
Yeah.
that concept of yes and that improv people know about, it's very much like that. So one person at the table is usually what you call the DM, dungeon master, or GM, game master, and their job. Uh, a lot of people think, okay, it's a game. There's a winner. There's not a winner. You're not playing D&D to win. You're playing D&D to tell an interesting story and have fun.
Mm.
So the DM's job is typically to describe what's going on in the world, and each person who's playing a character, their job is to describe what their character does or is doing.
Towards that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a DM isn't trying to like kill the characters. The characters aren't trying to destroy the DM's plans or anything like that. The DM simply describes like, okay, you find yourselves here in the woods and it's dark and you hear a really weird noise that sounds like some kind of animal and it sounds like it's coming closer. What do you do? And so the
Mm.
characters then the players will go around the table and one of them might say, I get a bunch of torches ready and we stick torches in the ground around us in a circle so we can see better at night. And another person might say, I get my armor on to prepare for a fight. So things like that.
Wow.
Um, so it's really just storytelling. Uh, and it can be any kind of story you want. It can be wilderness journey like Lord of the Rings. It can be um, a city spy adventure, kind of like the D&D movie was, where they kind of revolved around that city. And because the D&D movie that came out last year, it was a heist movie. If you took out all the fantasy elements, it would simply be this group of thieves who have to figure out how to steal this thing in order to accomplish something.
Mm.
That's the basic storyline of that movie.
Right.
It's a group of thieves who have to steal an item in order to accomplish their goal. And that can be in any genre, right?
Yeah.
When you look at heist movies like Ocean's 11, it's a group of thieves looking to steal a thing in order to accomplish their goal.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
D&D and Ocean's 11, exact same thing. That's the takeaway.
I'll have to try it. Sounds like fun.
Yeah. So and at the convention at least, we've got DMs who are there with characters prepared, so you don't have to bring anything.
Okay.
They show you real quick. Here's how your character works, and here's what we're gonna do. And you play for 2 hours, and now you've got a taste of it, and you can decide, is this for me or is this not for me?
Right.
Most people decide it's for them.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
I get addicted to things.
Yeah.
So
Well, but then you just set a schedule and you say, well, I'm going to play every other week with my group of friends for an evening.
right.
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 And you've got a sweet studio here with the cameras and everything. You do it live and you put it up on YouTube. I mean, there
Mm.
are people who do that professionally now. Critical Role, all of those guys were professional actors and now they're all making a ton of money off of
Really?
just simply recording their D&D sessions every week.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
They were all actors beforehand,
Right, right.
but they're all well known for that now.
Wow.
And they're publishing books with their settings, and they're doing appearances and all that kind of stuff. So
That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
So what are some other games other than D&D that would be there for people to kind of learn?
Yep. So our gaming program has evolved. A few years back, pre-COVID, we didn't do as much because we didn't have as much space. Now that we're in the Lansing Center, we have room to have about 10 to 12 tables of D&D going all the time.
Wow.
And then we have a bunch of other tables that are other role-playing games. So D&D is just a role-playing game, right? It's this storytelling game with a fantasy setting. But there's also Star Wars role-playing, which is a storytelling game, but it's in the Star Wars universe. There's also the Aliens role-playing game, which is storytelling, but in the Aliens universe.
Wow.
There's a My Little Pony game. There's a G.I. Joe game. There's a Power Rangers game. There's a Cthulhu game called
Wow.
Call of Cthulhu, which is horror. So there's all sorts of role-playing games, and they're all similar in the sense that there's a dungeon master, there's a group of players pretending to be different characters. You're describing a scene. Everybody says what they're doing, and you're telling the story through
Mm,
playing. Where you use dice for resolution and things like that. So they're all similar in that aspect. So we have a ton of tables with all of those things going on,
very cool.
and those are all considered role playing games, tabletop role playing. Board games is another big thing. We have a ton of board games at our show.
Wow.
We actually have a game library, which comes to us from a local group here. It's Hoplite Games. They're a board game store on Michigan Avenue downtown. They're over across from the Green Door on Michigan, just west of Frandor. If anybody's looking for a local game shop, they carry everything. And they've got a board game library in the store where you can come in and you can just grab a game off the shelf. You can open it up at one of their tables and play it to try it out
Wow.
before you buy it. And so they've got probably, I don't know, 300 or 400 different games, and they bring them over to the convention for people to use.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
There's also a gaming place in the mall, the Meridian Mall.
Yep. That's Gaming Cantina.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Is that the same concept?
Yes, same
Okay.
kind of thing. They're a board game. They sell board games and role playing, Dungeons and Dragons. There,
Okay.
miniatures, card games, all that stuff. So we do have some miniature games too. There's Warhammer. A lot of people are familiar with Warhammer, which is a science fiction miniature war game.
Okay.
There's also a Star Wars miniature game where you control ships, ship space battle. There's HeroClix, which is superheroes, and they're little miniatures. They're like an inch tall, and you generally play on a big table space where you have a grid system, where you put at or a picture of the setting, and you just move your guys around, and there's rules for combat and things like that.
Oh, cool.
So there's a miniature games. We'll end up having HeroClix and probably Star Wars, maybe Warhammer, although probably style of sci-fi war game. Warhammer is pretty spaced. You typically play on a 4x8 or 6x8
Oh, wow.
size battlefield.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're big.
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah. And then there's the card games, collectible card games. So Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, One Piece, the new Disney Lorcana, all of that kind of stuff.
Wow. That's
So
crazy.
we'll have a bunch of those kinds of things at our show as well. So our game room is all of that stuff. And then separate from that, we also have esports. So if you're into video gaming, we'll have tournaments all weekend long on we do stuff on Switch, we do stuff on PS5, and we do stuff on Xbox.
Really?
Yep. Yep. We've got a group that comes in and runs tournaments for us all weekend long on all three platforms.
Whoa. And what games?
I'm going to name a few that I can recall off the top of my head. I know we did Super Smash Brothers and Tekken. Um, I want to say maybe we did Halo, Fortnite. We deer.
Wow.
So, the popular stuff, the stuff
Yeah.
that everybody likes.
You guys are literally covering every that is nerd.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and that's kind of
Which
what
is awesome.
that's kind of the goal. And again, every Comic-Con is different.
Right.
Not everybody can do everything.
Right.
But again, part of our philosophy is we want people to have a good experience, not just come and shop.
Mm,
So for
yeah.
us, it was we need a big game room and we need a bunch of people who can run some games. We want to have esports so that people can come in and do video game tournaments and win some cool prizes. So like last year, we gave away a classic Super Nintendo system with a stack of games.
Oh, wow.
We gave a classic Atari away with a stack of games.
Whoa.
We gave away a Sega Genesis with a stack of games. So we'll do the same thing this year. We'll have a bunch of really cool prizes where you can win a system, you can win games, you can win gift cards, you can win swag, you can win all that stuff.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah. But
Wow.
that's makes it so that coming to our show for the weekend, it's now worth the cost.
Right.
It's
Right.
not just a shopping excursion. You can come, you can shop, but you can also meet the celebrities. You can go to the VIP event. You can do the after party. You can go to a panel or two every day and hear people talk about whatever your favorite things are. You can try out D&D. You can try out a new board game. Play your favorite board game. You can do the esports tournaments. You can go
Yeah.
around and talk to the charities or the cosplay groups that are there. This year, we're going to have some art displays going on that you can walk through and look
Wow.
at. We've got a kids area that's all crafting stuff where you can go and you can make superhero masks and you can build different things with construction materials and stuff like that. We've got the local reptile rescue, one of our charities that we bring in. They bring in reptiles
Wow.
for you to check out and hold and pet or adopt.
Well,
So yeah, two years ago they brought 17 reptiles. They adopted them all out before the end of the weekend.
holy cow.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm good on the snakes. They can
Yeah.
keep them.
Yeah, but there's all of that stuff that you can do. The performances, the music at night, the game room. We keep the game room open till midnight,
Wow.
Friday and Saturday, so people can just hang out and play games.
Dude, that is awesome.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be. We've designed the entire thing to be an amazing 3-day weekend experience for people who want to experience the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and that brings so much traffic to Lansing.
Yeah, 4,700 people last year.
Wow.
So
how many of those people aren't local? Do you know?
we don't have data on that
Okay.
specifically. We don't have super granular data.
It would be hard to kind of track that
Yeah.
unless you're asking hotels and whatnot.
Well, unless everybody registers with their zip code, and we don't do
Mm.
that kind of registration.
Okay.
Yet we may in the future, but that's a difficult system to set up. Some
Mm.
larger conventions do that. If you go to like New York Comic Con or C2E2 in Chicago, they've got 70. C2E2 has like 90,000 attendees.
Jeez.
New York has, I think, 200,000
Oh my gosh.
people. So they have the resources to do an electronic registration system.
Right.
They're collecting that info. I'm going to say, based on our polling data, that it's probably around 60 to 70% people in the Tri-County area here. So
Okay.
Ingham, Eaton, Clinton, probably around 60%. And then the other 40% are going to be people from outside the immediate
Right.
Lansing
Wow.
area.
Wow.
Yeah. 10% of our attendees come from out of state. And that number will rise as we grow.
Right.
Even this year, we're getting a lot more vendors coming from out of state.
Mm.
The vendors that come in the early years, they were mostly local, Michigan people. And this year, we've had over 300 vendors and artists apply to get into our show.
Holy cow.
Yeah. We've got room for about 170. So I'm still actually finishing up going through those this week. But this year, there's been a lot of people that have when they apply, they put their address down. I'm seeing vendors that are in Illinois, Ohio, Iowa. I've got somebody coming from Utah.
Wow.
Montana, Georgia.
Holy cow.
So vendors are coming into our show now from farther and farther away.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so cool. That is so cool.
Yeah. Well, because of our growth.
Yeah.
When you see a show, and we put our numbers out every year, not everybody does. when you see us go from 2,000 to 4,000 to, almost 5,000, and this year, if, we'll grow again and those numbers will be out and vendors pay attention to that. They go, okay, this
Right.
con is growing. There's over 5,000 people. Yeah, I want to be there.
Right. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of people for
Yeah.
any vendor,
Mhm.
really. I
Yeah.
mean, 5,000 people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah. And I hope we get to double or triple that at some point.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the amount of things that you have, that you had mentioned that will be there is insane.
Yeah. It's a
I
lot. A lot of conventions don't do all that
I
stuff.
wasn't even aware that you guys did all that.
Yeah. Yep.
I think I might
Well,
go.
we've only been so pre-COVID, we were a single day show, and we didn't have
Mm,
the ability or space even
to do all
at
that.
the smaller venue to do all of that stuff. As soon as we moved into the Lansing Center, we're like, we have a ton of space. What
What
can
do
we do? And we're going to be multi-day. So how do we keep people here for the weekend? And
Right.
but again, that was a decision we made early on when we made that move to the Lansing Center and we made the change to being a 3-day show. We said, okay, well, our strategy is going to be this. We want to be an experience,
Right.
not just a shopping excursion.
Right.
So even
Well,
some larger cons don't have a lot of things to do.
you
Because
have a lot of hands-on things, which is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, and that's by design. That's intentional.
Yeah.
To have things that you can experience and be part of, not
Right.
not just watch.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanna mention or bring up on the show?
Um, yeah.
Are you still accepting vendors?
We're always accepting vendors. So our that's another way that our convention is a little bit different than some other ones. We are not first come, first serve.
Okay.
We do what's called a curated show. So people fill out an application and we review all the applications and we decide which vendors get spots
Mm,
based on lots of factors. But do I want that vendor in the room because of what they sell? So, for instance, if I've already got 5 people selling anime and manga style plush and statues, I don't need more.
right,
I
right.
only want so many of those vendors.
Yeah,
I only want 2 or 3 of those people. So I'm not going to take more of those.
yeah.
I've got one sword dealer who sells replica weaponry. Um,
That's cool.
if I have 2 of them, then their sales suffer for both of them. So
Right.
I prefer to just have the one. I've got one vendor that sells lightsabers, functional uh, fake lightsabers,
Right,
not
right.
not real lightsabers. I wish. For costume, but they're replica quality
Okay.
from like replica quality from the movies.
Yeah,
And so, but I only have the one. I don't need more than one.
right,
So, for our show in particular, you can still fill out the application on our website to be a vendor. It doesn't mean you'll get in this year. It doesn't mean you won't. It depends on what you're selling and whether we already have that or have enough of that in our room.
okay.
And of course, once I fill up my spots are full. Artist
Right,
Alley, it's basically full. I still have like 50 applications to go through, but that's going to fill up my remaining slots, and a bunch of those people will be on our wait list. The nice thing though about signing up to do our show, even if we're full, I always tell vendors, sign up anyway, because what that does is it puts you in our system.
mhm,
I've got you in my database now, and
right,
I'm adding you to my email list. So when we send out our email for next year's show saying, hey, vendors, it's time to sign up,
right,
you'll be on the email list even
yep,
if you didn't get in this year.
right,
So signing up, even if we don't have a spot for you, it's important because it makes us aware of you, first of all, if we're not already. It makes us aware that you're interested in us. And it means I'm going to go and I'm going to look you up online. I'm going to check out your social media, your webpage, your art,
yep,
your whatever you're selling. I'm going to find you at another convention too. And I'm going to look at your booth, see, is it a nice display? And I'm going to look at how are you interacting with attendees and
right,
customers?
right.
Are you being an ass or are you really cool? Uh,
Right,
and that is actually a factor for us when we're deciding who to bring in. I've got a couple vendors that I don't want to bring back because they're just jerks.
right.
And I'd rather have a room full of cool, nice people
Yeah,
with displays selling a huge variety of stuff because that's the best experience for vendors because they have less competition, and it's the best experience for attendees that are
Absolutely.
paying to buy a ticket to come in and experience and shop.
Yeah.
So we pay a great deal of attention to all of that stuff. So some conventions are first come, first serve. If you sign up, you get a spot if there's a spot. And when their spots are full, they're full. But those conventions, when you go, you might see 10 people selling the same thing.
Right.
And all of those 10 vendors like, man, this was a crappy show. I barely made any money.
Right. Yeah.
Well, if you had had 3 of those instead of 10, those 3 would have all made money and been happy.
Right.
And your other 7 spots would have been different, unique offerings for sale,
Yeah.
making a better shopping experience.
Yeah, and it
for
won't hinder
customers.
the years to come because
Right.
if somebody was like, "Well, they had all the same stuff. I don't want to go again this year." I mean,
And that is also a factor. I've heard that from people.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
if you can expect something different every single time.
Yeah, so we try
Yeah.
real hard to make sure that our vendor hall is very eclectic and diverse. So so yeah, vendors should always sign up because you never know.
Right.
I might not have a spot for you this year, but next year I do.
Right.
Um, and like as an example, I had last year I had 2 different Pokemon vendors selling Pokemon cards.
Mm.
And this year, neither of them are in the business anymore.
Oh, wow.
They don't want to do cons. One of them quit selling stuff and became a pro player. And
A pro Pokemon player?
yeah,
Whoa, I didn't know that was a thing.
yeah. So you can get sponsors and you can go on the pro tour and win money.
There's a tour?
Oh yeah,
I'm learning all kinds of things.
yeah. The Magic Pro Tour. There are tons of people out there making a living playing Magic the Gathering.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because the company dumps money into the pro tour, and those people get endorsements and sponsors and stuff like that to
Wow.
pay for things. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So and then like the other vendor, I don't remember. I think he was just unavailable this year because of scheduled vacation or some kind of conflict or whatever. So, well, now I've got last year I had 2 Pokemon vendors. This year I still want 2 Pokemon vendors. So it means there's 2 different new Pokemon vendors this year,
Right.
right?
Right.
So we run into that situation sometimes where vendors come and go for whatever reason.
Right.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you're just away on vacation. Sometimes your wife says, that's our anniversary. You're not doing a con. I've heard that this year too. So
That's funny.
yeah.
Now sponsorships and everything, are you still looking for sponsors?
Always looking for sponsors. Yeah. If anybody out there is interested in sponsoring Comic-Con, we've
Are there certain kinds of businesses that you're looking for?
anybody
Anybody?
that wants to advertise to our demographic.
Local?
Local, national, doesn't matter. Xfinity is a sponsor of
Okay.
ours. They sponsor our esports program.
Okay.
So, and they're a national company. So we have some local sponsors, like this downtown smoke shop and the Midtown Brewing Company. That's where we do our after hours VIP events, but they are sponsors of the convention and they provide
Cool.
support to us. So it can be a local business, it can be a national company, it can be anything at all.
Okay.
It's really just when we say sponsor, it really just means advertising. We want to sell you advertising at our convention.
Right.
Whether
Right.
that's putting your name on banners or our flyers or our website or our radio ads or giving you a spot in the vendor hall, any of those things. Companies that want to get their brand in front of our attendees, that's what it's for.
Right.
That's all it is. But sponsorships are important. They allow us to do things.
Yeah.
Xfinity, as a sponsor, pays for our esports program. That's why
Wow.
we're able to have esports tournaments on 3 different console systems all weekend long with amazing prizes
That's awesome.
because Xfinity is a sponsor.
That's awesome.
So, so yeah, anybody that might be interested in sponsoring, go to capcitycomiccon.com, get a hold of us through there, and we'd be happy to talk to anybody really at any level. We have our official sponsorship package, I think, starts at like $500.
Oh, wow, that's not bad.
So yeah, so for us, for a local small business, it's not bad to do a low level sponsorship. We can do in-kind things because there's stuff that we need. So there's services that we need. So if there's
Okay.
something you can provide to us, either goods or services that we need, we can always trade a sponsorship for that.
Cool.
We did that last year um, with a gaming a game accessory company called Enhance, and they make really nice high quality bags for storing your role playing books or miniatures
Oh,
or
cool.
card games in. They make really high quality stuff, and they gave us a bunch of product to give away.
Wow.
Yeah, to because it promotes their brand, it puts their stuff out into people's hands,
Right.
and that's how we gave all of our dungeon master volunteers a piece of their equipment.
Wow.
Because all of their stuffs, their nice high end bags are $250 bags. So
That's crazy.
yeah. So sponsorships, yeah, we're always doing sponsorships. We usually have, you know, I don't know, 15, 20 different sponsors typically.
Okay.
But we're always looking for more. And we always have room for more too, because we can attach your company name, your business name to pretty much any aspect of our show.
Right.
You know,
Right.
the it could be the Taco Bell stage, right?
Right. Yep.
Or the Meyer panel rooms,
Right.
or the Kroger Artist Alley, you
Right.
know? So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's just marketing and branding
Yeah.
for companies that want that.
That's awesome. Well, I hope
Yeah.
that you find a lot of sponsors,
Yeah.
and make lots of money. Is there anything else? We've been going for an hour.
Mm. It doesn't seem like it, but I love
No,
talking about this
I
stuff.
feel like time always flies on the podcast, and then when you get about an hour in, it's like, okay, now we're
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. So yeah, I actually want to mention, and we don't have to talk about this a lot, but I want to mention our Kickstarter.
Oh yeah,
It's
that's right.
going on right now. So when this airs, it'll still be going on. It ends, I think the third week in March or so,
Okay.
because we just started it last week. It's a low level ask. Our Kickstarter is not to fund our convention. Um, the convention is happening whether the Kickstarter funds or not. The Kickstarter is our way to say thank you to fans and supporters who know they want to come. You can go and buy discounted tickets right now through the Kickstarter.
Oh, okay.
So discounted tickets, extra swag, whatever it is, maybe we have an exclusive on there. I think so if you're interested, if you're listening and you're interested in coming and you want to get a VIP ticket, um, the way we're doing it this year is if you buy your VIP ticket through the Kickstarter right now, you get to go to both nights,
Oh, cool.
Friday and Saturday, with a single ticket cost. When the Kickstarter's done, if you want a VIP ticket, you have to buy a Friday only VIP ticket and or a Saturday only VIP ticket,
Okay.
because the seating is limited.
Right.
So that's kind of and if you want a weekend pass, they're discounted right now on the Kickstarter. Um,
Where's that
so
at? On social media or
yeah,
on your website?
yeah. If you go to our website, it's right there on the front page. If you go check out our Facebook, and I don't know the URL for our Kickstarter, but if you go to Kickstarter.com and search for Capital City Comic Con, you can find it that way too.
Okay.
So yeah, so if you want to just get your tickets now, in addition to getting a discount, you also don't have to pay the e-tix fees through the box office.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So e-tix is like the same as Ticketmaster
Right.
for
Right.
for those wondering. So yeah, so the Kickstarter is going on right now. We've announced a few of our guests
Okay.
already, but I don't think we've announced everybody. So I'm going to mention a couple of our celebrity guests. I already mentioned earlier John Beatty and Dan Mishkin, two of our comic guests. I want to mention Adrian Pazdar is an actor. He was on Heroes, and he was in Agents of Shield, and he was in the animated Iron Man and Avengers cartoons. He
Okay.
was the voice of, I think, Iron Man.
Wow.
So he's been in a lot of stuff. If you look at his picture, you're going to recognize him if you're into any of this stuff. So he's coming as a guest this year. And also we have Tim Russ, who played Tuvok on Star Trek Voyager.
Oh, wow.
He was also in Spaceballs.
Okay.
People know him from Spaceballs. An accomplished musician. He's got his own music that he does. He performs regularly as a guitarist and singer.
Whoa.
So yeah, so we've got him coming as well. So if you're a Star Trek fan, this is the first time we've had a Star Trek guest.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I want to
Wow.
mention those two guys at least. We've announced them already. I don't remember who else we've announced, so I don't want to say a name accidentally too far ahead of time. But yeah, we'll have all of our guests announced by the end of March, though.
Okay.
So that people can prepare and go and find things for them to sign and
Right.
that they can bring. And
That's so cool.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah. And then so let's see. Mentioned the Kickstarter. Mentioned a couple of our guests. I think we've covered pretty much everything.
Awesome.
July 12th through the 14th. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So yeah,
Cool.
Lansing, Michigan, at the Lansing Center, right downtown, with our after hours. Lots of stuff. A lot of details on our website will be coming out over the next few months. Our panel schedule isn't up yet. We're still finalizing all of that.
Okay.
So that'll start appearing in April. Our guests will all be up on the website this month, before the end of March, for
Okay.
people to look at. Our vendor list will be up by the end of March as well. Our vendor and artist list for Artist Alley. So yeah, there will be a lot more information available in about a month or so on
Awesome.
the website.
Well, all of that will be in the show notes for people to go find. So
Awesome.
cool. Thanks,
Yeah.
Tim. This was a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Thank you, Dave, for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. See you, everybody.